Welcome back to the Unbound Priestess podcast. I know it's been a hot minute because I've been working hard. So those of you who are in the Rebel Mystic community, you've already seen the level of work and opportunities I am putting out there for you. And I'm so excited for these. But one of the opportunities I want to talk about right now is the idea of shadow work. So I have seen a lot of shadow work posts out on social media. I've heard a lot of talk in shadow work communities or just general witchcraft communities about it. And the idea that shadow work is not necessary. And it's true. Shadow work is not necessary. You do not have to do shadow work. But here's why I advocate for it. Shadow work helps you level up your game. Shadow work teaches you how to be more potent in your magic, how to live a more fulfilling life. And that's the goal. When I'm teaching you shadow work, when I'm teaching you the processes that I follow, when I'm teaching you the lessons and the shadows and the gifts of the divine feminine archetypes that I work with, the shadow work behind that helps you understand the why. Why are you doing what you're doing? Why is that goal set for you? Why did you set that goal? Why is that important to you? Where is it going to take you? What is the background behind it? What is the motivation behind it? What is the ego trigger, the emotional trigger, the trauma trigger behind it? Because these are important things. If we're not looking at our why very closely, if we're not knowing ourselves very deeply, then we are going to find places in our craft where we get stuck. We're unmotivated, we self-sabotage, we do all the things that keep us from living up to our potential. And this can look like something small, from just not practicing your craft on a regular basis, to blowing a very big contract as business owners. Coming from my perspective as a business owner, it would look like for me blowing a big contract or a big opportunity that would bring in some prosperity for my business and help me live a prosperous life. Shadow work is directly related to how we value ourselves and how we show up in the world. When we learn to value ourselves and we learn to value our work, our authority, our experience, our life can start looking very differently in how we show up and for who we show up or whom we show up. When I'm teaching shadow work, I'm teaching you to look at yourself closely. I'm teaching you to know thyself, which is one of the tenets of witchcraft. Whether you're part of a coven or just a solitary practitioner, that is one of the tenets that we all agree upon. Know thyself. But we can't know thyself if we never look at thyself. If we never look deeply at the motivations behind why we want certain things, why we set certain goals, or the blockages that keep us from attaining the goals and living up to our potential. So when we are doing our shadow work, we're deeply and intricately looking at the narratives we've been fed, the blockages that keep us from our potential, but also the relationships we keep, not only with ourselves, but with others. And here's something that happens. When you start valuing yourself, you start looking out away from you into your friend groups, into your family groups. You start looking at who else is valuing you, who else values you. And 9 times out of 10, you're going to find a handful of people in your life, spaces in your life that don't value you. They value what you give to them. They value what you offer. They value your time and attention as long as they can reap the benefit of your time and attention. But as soon as you set a boundary, you'll know very quickly who was really on your side, who genuinely valued you because you are you, not because of what you offered them. not because of maybe the status they can gain from knowing you or the extra benefits that they gained from knowing you. And this can be a very hurtful place to be, because you start realizing very clearly that the people in your life, that many people, not all of them, I mean, some of them are going to step up, but you'll run into a good majority that they are just not ready. First of all, they're not ready to look at themselves. Second, they're threatened by the growth that you're initiating and exuding, that you're displaying. And they are scared of what they might find if things change. People don't like change. Humans don't like change. We don't like change, but change is inevitable. We have to change. We are going to change. There is no if, ands, or buts. Change is the one true constant. So we have a choice as witches. We can leave that change up to anything and everything, willy-nilly out in the universe. Whatever comes, and there's no control over it. Or we can take the fact that things are going to change and we can start molding that to our benefit. This makes people who are not ready, willing, or able to look deeply at themselves, at their patterns, their narratives, where they're stuck. It makes them very uncomfortable. It makes them scared. So you're going to find that when you start doing your shadow work, you're going to need to trim people from your life or severely limit their access to you, which comes with another problem. People will take that personally, but it's not personal. It's personal to you, and it should be, because you deserve a better life. You deserve people in your immediate circle who are also ready, willing, and able, like you, to learn, grow, and be powerful, and who are not threatened by your power, by your change. You want to be surrounded by people. You need to be surrounded by other witches who do their shadow work actively, not passively, not on the surface, but actively. Witches who are willing to look at the narratives they keep, how they keep themselves stuck, because not only because the people we surround ourselves with are the people we begin to emulate. We begin to look, act, and feel the same. That's neuroscience. That is across the board agreed upon by science. And I love it when science and witchcraft mix, right? But you also want to have a group of people in your circle who can help you, and vice versa. It's reciprocity here. Who can help when you get stuck. Who can help and are willing to help when you hit an especially emotional big block that is hard to get through. You also want people in your group who are willing to give you the space to work through those blocks, to understand them, to get to a point where you can feel balanced in it, where you feel like you can resolve it, where you can feel like you're balanced in the emotional tide that comes, who are willing to hold space for you while you're being vulnerable without looking at it as weakness. And this is something that even in my own practice, I struggle with, because I have found more times than not, people are not willing to look at themselves. They are not willing to do the work. They say they are. They'll talk a good game, but when it comes down to brass tacks, they'd rather stay stuck in the narratives. They'd rather perpetuate the cycles, the blockages, the narratives, the dialogue in their head that keeps them from growing, learning, and truly prospering. They might make little headway here and there, baby steps. They might find that they experience some prosperity, but and you'll see this really clearly, as soon as a potential hiccup happens or a true hiccup happens, some catastrophe that's not really a catastrophe occurs. Maybe their car breaks down, or they have a health scare, or their kid does something in school and they're called to talk to the principal, whatever it might be. There might be some hiccup in life, because life is life. Even if you're being as proactive as you possibly can with your shadow work and you're doing everything, you're positive, you're doing your living spell. If you don't know what that is, go check the link in my bio, because I am teaching a class on that August 25th. If you're doing the work, you're still going to experience hiccups in life. Life is still going to throw you curveballs. And how you handle that speaks volumes. How you work yourself through it, not up over it. Okay, there's the key right there. If the people in your group can do nothing but create more stress around situations that are really not that stressful, there's a lot of work to be done. There's a lot of shadows there that are not being addressed. There's a lot of narratives there that are not being recognized. So yes, when you start doing shadow work, this is why it's scary. This is why most people shy away from it, most witches, because it changes everything. But it's necessary. If you want to be powerful, if you want to step fully into your power, if you want to live a life that is fulfilling, not just happy, but fulfilling, you should do your shadow work. You should look deeply at yourself, because we want that fulfilled life, that joy-filled life. And there's a reason I say fulfilling over happy or joyful. Happiness and joy, they are emotions. Emotions are what? They're fleeting. But if you live a life where you feel fulfilled, you have more opportunities for joy and happiness in your life. So more of the space in your life is being filled by joyful interactions, happy moments, experiences, that sort of thing. And that's why shadow work is so important. So we can create this in our life. And trust me, I've been working my shadows for almost 20 years. It was something my high priestess expected in our coven. And no, shadow work is not required as witches. But if you're following a path, if you're following a teacher that requires it, then that's where it's required, right? That's where it becomes a requirement. So and she didn't call it shadow work. It was more of a shamanic practice. But from what I've learned, shadow work goes far beyond Jungian psychology. He just coined the word. Where indigenous practices, magical practices, have been doing this work for centuries. And if we learn anything from our ancestors, from our predecessors, we know that they had something there. They knew what was going on. Even if we're somehow disconnected from it, they knew it was happening. They knew it. So this is why I teach it. This is why almost every single class, container, event that I offer has some sort of shadow work element. Maybe not full blown. I try not to go too deep too quick, but yeah, that doesn't always happen. I have some students in my containers right now. They're like, woof, I'm through the ringer. But you know what? They are coming out on the other side transformed. They understand themselves better than they have ever understood themselves. They are smiling, even though what they went through was a little painful. It was a little, maybe not traumatic. No. We're not doing trauma here. But the deep look can make you very uncomfortable. And it can make you want to pull back and run away. But I promise you, if you stick through it, especially if you're held in a container that's safe, a safe container where the facilitator understands their own shadows, understands how to hold the space so that you're not reeling out of control. And that comes with communication too. You have to communicate with your facilitator, or else they don't know where you stand. They don't know where you're at in the process, right? So that's one of the things I do for my students. I offer them an open door that if they need me, I'm here. During that container, that's why I make them specifically small group containers, because I want to be able to give everybody attention. I want to be able to respond to their needs. But that's a whole other side of the paradigm and the work. Shadow work is not required for witches, but it is I feel absolutely necessary. I feel, in my experience, in my years doing this, that it is essential. Not required, but essential. It is so important for us to do the work that helps us understand who we are, the why behind what we want to do, the why do you want to be a witch? Why are you a witch? Why does it matter? And then helping us anchor into that conviction of why we believe what we believe, why we practice what we practice, and how we practice what we practice. And I think that's a big caveat there, because so many witches are kind of just flying by the seat of their pants. They don't know why they're doing what they're doing. And that leads to lack of confidence. And lack of confidence will lead you to not wanting to do the work. Because why do the work if you suck at it, right? Or you feel like you suck at it? You're probably not sucking at it. You're just, you got a shadow there that needs to be addressed. So think about it. Why? Why do you want to be a witch? Why are you a witch? Not the what behind it, but the why. The deep inner knowing, the deep why. Why does this matter to you? Why is it important? And then focus on the what. What does it bring you? What problems does it solve for you? What does it offer you? What is the healing? Because that's what we're doing when we're doing our shadow work. We're healing from these invisible or under the surface things that keep us stuck, that keep us small. And I don't think that's where we're supposed to be. So I hope you found that helpful. If you want to learn more about the programs I offer and what's coming up, check my website, leandrawitchwood.com. I have a ton going on from now until October, and I look forward to seeing you in the circle. Blessed be.